Every Saturday, my dad made us strip naked in the basement for Health Day, where he'd document our bodies in blue binders and do special examinations with medical equipment. When I finally reported him and he got arrested, I saw the judge had the same blue binder with a child's name on it. Then Mom started dating another man from Dad's blog who bought pediatric exam gloves and wanted to continue the weekly tradition. In my family, we had something called Health Day every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. sharp. We'd finish breakfast and Dad would already have the basement ready with his white coat on and all his medical equipment laid out on metal trays in the basement. Our mom would kiss our foreheads before sending us down one by one. Then came the examinations, thorough inspections of every inch of our bodies while he muttered medical terms and scribbled in thick blue binders. He'd make us stand naked under the bright lights while he circled us slowly, his gloved fingers pressing into our skin, checking what he called abnormalities. He called it preventative care. I dreaded it every single week. The rule was, you couldn't flinch or complain or you'd start over from the beginning. The strangest part, we weren't allowed to mention Health Day at school. Not to teachers, not to friends. I only realized in middle school how weird that was, how other kids just went to pediatricians once a year, not secret basement clinics every week. But the worst part was the special examinations. If Dad found something concerning during the regular check, you'd get called down on weeknights. He had this small locked room with bright lights and an exam table with stirrups. The metal was always cold and he'd spend what felt like hours with his instruments, documenting every detail while telling us to relax and breathe. He said it was for comprehensive assessment. As a kid, I was terrified. I'd count the ceiling tiles over and over, but Dad said fear meant you were taking your health seriously. When I got older, I started questioning everything. Why did we need weekly exams when no one else did? Why did Mom drink before every Health Day? I remember once at 14, I asked if I could skip it for Rachel's sleepover. Dad gripped my wrist and stared at me with these desperate eyes. Health Day is the only thing keeping you safe, he said. That's when I knew something was deeply wrong. Rachel's family had annual checkups, vaccination schedules, growth charts on the fridge, no basement procedures, no locked rooms, no binders documenting their bodies, just normal healthcare. I finally refused to go downstairs when I turned 16. Dad went ballistic, screaming that I was ungrateful and didn't understand the dangers. Mom just stood there shaking. He locked me in my room and said I couldn't leave until I submitted to a full examination. The next morning, Mom slipped me $20 under the door and whispered to use the window. When I came back that night, Dad acted like nothing had happened. He just asked if I was ready for my examination, like he hadn't imprisoned me the night before. That's when I started planning. Still, the whole thing ate at me. Why was Dad so obsessed with our health when he wasn't even a doctor? Where did he get all that equipment? 3 months later, I told my health teacher everything. Mrs. Patterson kept her face very still as I explained our Saturday routine. She said she needed to make a phone call. I knew what that meant. She came back with the principal. Then the police came. Then child services. They took us out of class one by one just like Health Day, except this time we didn't go home. I'll never forget Dad's face when they arrested him. Not angry, just broken. I was protecting them, he kept saying. The officers found the binders, dozens spanning back to when Jake was a toddler. Detailed measurements, development notes, photos we didn't remember. My little sister Emma's binder was the thickest. The detective told us Dad had been in foster care, 7 different homes before he aged out. The third home was where it happened. A foster father who was a paramedic, who did health checks on all the kids, who kept detailed records that no one questioned because he had medical training. The man was eventually caught, but not until after Dad left that home. Not until after 2 years of examinations. Dad had testified at the trial. The prosecutor said trauma victims sometimes recreate their abuse to feel in control. But here's what really messed me up. When they processed Dad's work computer, they found a blog. Anonymous. Years of posts about protecting children through vigilant health monitoring. Thousands of followers. Other parents asking for advice on examination techniques. He'd created a whole community. And in his final post written the morning of his arrest, he said he'd noticed behavioral changes in me that suggested possible abuse. He was asking his followers whether he should increase the examination frequency or install cameras in our rooms for continuous health monitoring. He never understood he was the danger he was trying to protect us from. 3 months later, we were in court. The judge reviewed all the evidence. Then she cleared her throat. Insufficient evidence, she said. That's when I saw it. The blue binder on her desk. The same kind Dad used, with a child's name on the spine. I froze completely. My eyes locked on that binder while my brain tried to process what I was seeing. The judge continued speaking, but her words became white noise. Everything in the courtroom felt suddenly distant, except for that blue spine with a child's name written in the same careful handwriting Dad used. Emma tugged at my sleeve. She kept pulling harder when I didn't respond. The courtroom was clearing around us, but I couldn't move. Dad's lawyer was shaking Mom's hand near the defense table, both of them speaking in low voices about something that made Mom nod repeatedly. The lawyer handed her a manila envelope before gathering his briefcase. The judge stood to leave, and I watched her pick up the binder. She held it against her chest with both arms wrapped around it, the way you'd carry something precious, or secret. My legs finally unfroze when she disappeared through the door to her chambers. Emma's tugging became more insistent. She asked why we weren't leaving, why everyone else was going. Her voice had that edge of panic she got when routines broke. I forced myself to look down at her and smooth my face into something reassuring. Jake stood near the courtroom doors, his shoulders rigid and his breathing too fast. Even from across the room, I could see his chest rising and falling in a rhythm that made my stomach clench. The same measured pace Dad used during examinations. In for 4 counts, hold for 4, out for 4. I guided Emma toward Jake while pulling out my phone. Rachel had driven us here in her mom's minivan and was waiting in the parking garage. My fingers shook as I typed that Jake was having a panic attack in the lobby, and we couldn't leave yet. She texted back immediately that she'd wait as long as we needed. The courthouse bathroom was empty when I pushed Emma inside. I needed a minute to think, to process what I'd seen. Emma went into a stall while I gripped the sink and stared at my reflection. My face looked pale and my eyes too wide. The door opened behind me. A girl about my age walked in. She had the judge's same sharp cheekbones and dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She stopped when she saw me crying. Her face went through several expressions before settling on nervous sympathy. She said her dad told her my family was going through a tough time. Her dad, the judge. I wiped my face quickly and mumbled something about it being okay. She shifted her weight and I noticed the band-aid on her inner arm, right where the elbow bent, fresh. The skin around it slightly red. She caught me looking and tugged her sleeve down. Emma came out of the stall and washed her hands in silence. The judge's daughter left without saying anything else. We found Jake still in the lobby, empty, surrounded by a small crowd. A court officer was telling everyone they needed to clear the hallway for the next case. Mom stood near the information desk with Dad's lawyer, her voice carrying as she asked about emergency temporary arrangements. The lawyer kept nodding and taking notes. I had to choose. The judge was probably still in her chambers. I could go back, knock on her door, ask about that binder. But Jake's breathing was getting worse, and Emma pressed against my side. The court officer's voice got firmer about clearing the space. I chose my siblings. Always them first. I guided Jake toward a bench and coached him through the breathing exercises our therapist taught us. Emma sat on his other side and held his hand. Mom glanced over once but stayed focused on the lawyer. Whatever seeds she was planting for her custody grab would have to wait. Three things happened at once. Jake's breathing hitched and he clutched his chest. Emma announced she needed the bathroom again, urgently, and a woman approached with a sympathetic smile, introducing herself as someone from Dad's blog who wanted to offer support. The blog supporter immediately focused on Jake, kneeling beside him and speaking in soothing tones about breathing techniques. She pulled out her phone to show him a meditation app. I caught her taking photos while pretending to navigate the screen. When she spoke to Jake, she used exact phrases from Dad's posts about managing children's anxiety, word for word. Mom chose that moment for a public breakdown. Right there in the parking lot, she collapsed against a concrete pillar and sobbed loud enough to draw stares. Concerned strangers gathered quickly. Through her tears, she told them about false accusations tearing our family apart, how her children were being traumatized by the system, how she just wanted to heal as a family. Emma surprised everyone by defending Dad. She told a woman in a business suit that he just wanted us to be healthy, that he cared more than anyone. The woman looked at me with obvious judgment, like I was the one destroying a loving family. Emma's words were rehearsed. Someone had been coaching her. Back at Mom's car, I spotted a medical equipment catalog on the passenger seat. Several items were circled in red pen. The dad used medical words and special equipment just like the person who hurt him when he was little. That's such a strange way for hurt to travel through families. He thought he was being safe, but was actually copying the bad things that happened to him without even knowing it. The same brands Dad used, the same examination tools. I reached for it, but Mom appeared at my shoulder, snatching it away and tossing it in the back. Her eyes dared me to say something. A local news reporter materialized with a cameraman. They'd been covering the trial and wanted a family statement. I was mid-sentence about the judge when I realized how I must look. Wild-eyed, rambling about binders and conspiracies. The reporter's expression shifted from interest to concern. The camera kept rolling as I tried to backtrack, but the damage was done. At school the next week, the counselor called me in. Emma needed her anxiety medication adjusted, but required Mom's signature. Mom now had leverage over Emma's mental health treatment. She could withhold consent, demand family therapy sessions, require Emma to process her trauma in ways that suited Mom's narrative. Aunt Claire visited that weekend. She sat in our kitchen and told me my behavior reminded her of my breakdown after Grandpa died. She used careful words about seeing conspiracies and coincidences, about how trauma could make us paranoid. Mom nodded along, playing the concerned parent perfectly. Mom's Facebook post that night got hundreds of supportive comments. She wrote about choosing healing over hatred, forgiveness over bitterness. When I commented with a warning about ongoing danger, she deleted it within minutes. My follow-up message got me blocked and reported for harassment. I tried researching the judge at school, just basic public information, but the IT system flagged my searches as cyberstalking a public official. The disciplinary meeting included the principal, the school resource officer, and a very disappointed Mrs. Patterson. They spoke about appropriate channels and respecting authority figures. Jake needed therapy, but Mom controlled the health insurance now. She informed him she wouldn't approve sessions unless he stopped dwelling on the past. She had Dad's examination notes that technically still authorized treatment, but she sat on them. Jake's panic attacks got worse without professional help. The exhaustion hit hard. I stayed up most nights checking Emma's window, making sure she was safe. One morning I fell asleep in history class. The teacher assumed substance abuse and mandated a substance test. The rumors spread quickly. The troubled kid from the family in the news was now possibly on substances. Kayla's mom called that afternoon. We'd been best friends since second grade, but her husband didn't want their family associated with our drama. It might affect Kayla's college applications. She was sorry, but she had to think of Kayla's future. The call lasted 2 minutes. The grocery store divided our community visibly. Half the people offered quiet support, a hand on my shoulder or a whispered, "Stay strong." The other half actively avoided us, switching aisles when they saw us coming. Someone had added my name to the Neighborhood Watch Facebook group as a person of concern. Mom started her media campaign in earnest. She claimed Dad's methods were misinterpreted by authorities who didn't understand preventive care. She had security footage from that last health day showing her calm demeanor, kissing our foreheads like always. It supported her narrative that she had complete confidence in Dad's approach. Jake's boss at the pizza place needed Mom's tax information for his W-2. Jake had to maintain contact with her despite my protests. Every interaction gave her more ammunition, more chances to plant seeds of doubt about his memories. The locked room became a weapon against me. Proving Mom knew about it meant admitting I'd known too. Why hadn't I said something sooner? The question followed me everywhere. My silence for years made me complicit. Mom's lawyer would use that silence to show I wasn't a reliable witness. When Dad's blog finally went offline, I felt a moment of relief. Mom's book club friend happened to be visiting and documented my reaction. She later described it as a celebration, proof I lacked compassion for my father. The narrative wrote itself, the vindictive teenager who destroyed her family. Mom's text came late that night. "You destroyed this family, but I'm going to fix it. Your father understood what children need." The words glowed on my screen in the dark. I screenshot it immediately, knowing she'd deny sending it later. This was just the beginning of her campaign to rebuild what I'd torn down. The notification sound from Mom's phone woke me at 3 a.m. She'd left it charging in the kitchen during one of her visits to check on Emma. I crept downstairs and saw the screen still glowing with a message preview. Jim, a pediatric nurse from Dad's blog, comments offering to meet for coffee to discuss supporting families through false memory syndrome. I memorized his profile picture before the screen went dark. Square jaw, kind eyes, the type of face that made parents trust him with their children. His message used Dad's exact phrasing about preventative care, the same clinical language that made abuse sound like love. Mom met him that Thursday. She came home with pamphlets about trauma-induced false memories and a new lightness in her step. Jim had validated everything she wanted to believe, that Dad was misunderstood, that we were confused, that proper medical monitoring was essential for children's well-being. Jake noticed the change immediately. During our weekly sibling check-in at the park, park, he described a conversation with Mom differently than I remembered it. His version had her being supportive, understanding. Mine had her manipulating him about therapy access. The trauma was fragmenting his memories, creating gaps that Mom could fill with her preferred narrative. Mom's lawyer loved the inconsistency. My old texts surfaced during discovery. Messages to friends joking about Dad's weird doctor game from years ago. The casual tone, the laughing emojis, the lack of contemporaneous concern. They painted a picture of a teenager who'd retroactively decided normal parenting was abuse. Emma started parroting Jim's explanations. During supervised visits, she'd explain that Dad never hurt us. He was just preparing us for real doctors. Jim had told her that real medical examinations were much worse than anything Dad did. The comparison lodged in her 8-year-old brain like a splinter. The security system Mom installed included cameras covering every entrance. When I checked Emma's window at 3 a.m. the following week, the Ring doorbell captured everything. Mom's lawyer twisted it into evidence of obsessive surveillance behavior, proof that I was the one with boundary issues. An emergency custody hearing treated my concerns about Jim as jealousy over Mom's healing relationship. The judge, a different one this time, suggested I might be projecting my trauma onto innocent situations. Mom sat there holding Jim's hand, playing the wounded mother trying to rebuild her life. I remembered Dad's laptop password from watching him type it countless times during Health Day documentation. His browser history revealed searches about examination resistance in adolescence, techniques for managing uncooperative children, forums discussing how to maintain authority when children began questioning procedures. The blog archives went deeper than the public posts. Private message threads showed Dad's growing paranoia about certain followers, especially Jim. He'd been tracking which members accessed specific posts, who downloaded his documentation templates, who asked too many detailed questions about restraint techniques. Through the school directory, I found the judge's daughter's Instagram. Beach photos with careful filters, but adjusting the brightness revealed marks on her arms in the same pattern as the Band-Aid placement. The metadata showed they were taken the week before our trial. My therapist got subpoenaed to testify about my obsessive fixation on authority figures. Her notes, taken out of context, made my valid concerns about the judge look like paranoid delusions. The legal system was eating its own tail, using my search for help against me. I tried recording Jim during Emma's next visit. My phone was hidden in her backpack, positioned to capture their interaction. But Emma found it and warned him, thinking she was protecting family peace. She'd been trained too well to keep family secrets. School pickup became a battlefield. Mom arrived with Jim to collect Emma for an appointment during my authorized time. The principal had to mediate while other parents watched and whispered. Emma stood between us, tears streaming down her face, begging everyone to stop fighting. Mrs. Patterson requested a transfer to a different school. The administration suggested her involvement in our family matter created liability issues. She hugged me goodbye in the parking lot, whispering apologies about protecting her pension. Another adult who'd tried to help, pushed out by the system. Jim started spending nights at the house. I'd drive by and see Dad's study light on. Jim's silhouette bent over Dad's medical references. He wore Dad's reading glasses, used Dad's coffee mug, sat in Dad's chair like he was channeling his mentor's spirit. Mom offered me Dad's belongings if I'd stop making accusations about Jim. She presented it as closure, a chance to heal. My refusal got documented in court filings as evidence of vindictive behavior, proof I prioritized conflict over healing. Going through Dad's files revealed something disturbing. His first blog post predated his foster father's arrest by 6 months. He'd already been researching child development, collecting medical equipment, building his theoretical framework. The abuse story was real, but became convenient cover for existing interests. Jake found more evidence in Dad's draft posts, increasing alarm about Jim accessing private sections of the blog, downloading documentation templates, asking questions that went beyond normal follower engagement. Jim wearing Dad's reading glasses and using his coffee mug while studying those medical books makes me wonder what Mom really knows about his background. The way she offered those belongings as some kind of trade feels calculated, like she's testing how much control she still has over the situation. But the concern wasn't protective. Dad was worried about losing control over his follower network. Grandma faced an impossible choice. Supporting me meant Mom would restrict access to Emma. She chose supervised visits over no visits, but secretly passed me information about Mom's childhood, medical anxiety running through generations. Grandma's mother had been the same way. I started using Dad's manipulation playbook. Befriending Jim's ex-wife required careful orchestration, bumping into her at the pharmacy, striking up conversation about the challenges of co-parenting. She mentioned Jim's interest in pediatric development while I pretended to shop for vitamins. The cloud account we shared for Emma's homework contained more than assignments. Her journal entries described new examinations with Jim, clinical terms mixed with a child's confusion, the same progression Dad's notes had shown, starting gentle, building trust, pushing boundaries. Dr. Martin emerged from Dad's past, a former colleague who wanted to study our family for an academic paper on intergenerational trauma patterns. He promised anonymity while asking invasive questions about our physical development, our medical histories, our bodily autonomy. Fighting Mom's custody grab while fending off Dr. Martin's intrusions stretched me too thin. I missed Emma's school conference, arriving to find my name marked as uninvolved guardian in the official records. Another piece of evidence for Mom's case. The legal aid account emptied while Mom used Dad's life insurance for a high-powered attorney team, 3 lawyers to my 1. They filed motions faster than we could respond, buried us in paperwork while Mom played the grieving widow rebuilding her life. Emma's favorite ice cream shop became the site of our worst public confrontation. Mom and Jim arrived during my time with Emma. The shouting match traumatized the teenage employees who called police about a family disturbance. Emma hid in the bathroom while officers separated us. My manager at the bookstore pulled me aside the next week. Customer complaints about family drama affecting the workplace. Jim's nurse friends had been calling, expressing concern about my mental state. I lost the job that was paying for my legal fees. Jake's efficiency apartment became my refuge. I slept on his couch while Mom and Jim redecorated my childhood room. Fresh paint to cover old memories, new furniture to erase my presence. Emma's drawings of our family now included Jim where Dad used to be. Grandpa's intervention felt like another betrayal. He begged me to let the family heal, to stop torturing Mom. His words echoed every enabler who'd ever chosen comfort over children's safety. Haven't we suffered enough? He asked, as if suffering could be measured and capped. My investigation into Jim destroyed unexpected lives. His ex-wife lost her job at the clinic when allegations surfaced. Their daughter texted me screenshots of of her mother crying, thanking me for ruining their lives too. The investigation I'd started had ripple effects I couldn't control. The ex-wife's new marriage strained under the pressure. Custody battles reopened. Financial stress from job loss. I kept pushing forward anyway, knowing innocent people were suffering. The moral high ground eroded beneath my feet with every choice. Jake's doubt hit me hardest. Exhausted from panic attacks and Mom's manipulation, he wondered aloud if we were remembering things worse than they were. The question hung between us in his tiny kitchen. I couldn't immediately refute it because I'd started wondering too. Maintaining credibility meant admitting my own lies. Yes, I'd lied about staying at a friend's house during my escape at 16. The admission got twisted into evidence that I was comfortable with deception, that my current accusations deserved skepticism. Emma's journal revealed a memory that destroyed me. She'd seen me crying over Dad's medical books, trying to understand the terminology. Her child's perception interpreted my studying as practice for my own examinations. The misunderstanding became a weapon in court. Mom's lawyer filed an emergency motion advancing our custody hearing by 2 months. Immediate danger to minor child, the papers claimed. My lawyer had the virus. I'd have to represent myself or accept the accelerated timeline with a substitute lawyer who didn't know our case. Jim's emails to Dad showed a parasocial relationship years in the making. Desperate need for approval mixed with absolute conviction about children needing proper monitoring. He genuinely believed he was completing Dad's important work. True believers were always the most dangerous. The plan formed slowly. Using Emma as bait went against every protective instinct. But I needed evidence. Real evidence. I arranged an unsupervised visit knowing Jim would attempt an examination. The betrayal of my promise to keep her safe tasted like ash. My old protective instincts died as calculation took over. Emma became a chess piece. Jake became a witness. I documented everything with Dad's clinical detachment, using their methods against them while hating myself for the transformation. The hidden camera in Emma's backpack captured everything during the visit. Jim's careful grooming, his clinical terminology, Emma's confused compliance, the progression exactly matching Dad's documented techniques, evidence that would destroy him and traumatize her. Court victory felt hollow when Emma asked why I let Jim touch her when I'd promised protection. We cried together in the courthouse bathroom, her trust in me shattered. I'd saved her by failing her. The math of abuse never balanced. Mom's counterclaim gained traction. I'd manipulated Emma into a dangerous situation for evidence, endangered a child to prove a point. The truth of it burned even as I argued necessity. Judge shopping became our reality as Mom pushed for a sympathetic ear. Everything depended on whether the judge would recuse himself after viewing the footage. His own secrets were at risk if investigations expanded. The system protected itself first, children second. We all knew it but pretended otherwise. Jim's daughter from his first marriage reached out. Her text message broke my heart. I'd been nice to her at the pharmacy. Why was I destroying her dad? She didn't know what he did. Another innocent child in the blast radius of adult crimes. Hospital colleagues split predictably. Some reported concerns retroactively, covering their liability. Others defended Jim, fearing their own oversight would be questioned. The medical community circled wagons while children suffered in the gaps. Family court prioritized stability over safety without criminal convictions. The video showed discomfort, not definitive abuse, according to Mom's expert witness. Legal definitions designed to protect predators who knew exactly how far they could push. Dad's former patient's parent provided a character reference from federal prison. Tax fraud had put him away, but he owed Dad for saving his child's life. Even criminals had trusted Dad with their kids. The irony of that trust burned. The parent testified to Dad's professionalism via video link. Careful words about never leaving the child alone with him though. Instincts had warned even as gratitude silenced. Everyone knew, but no one said until too late. Mom revealed Dad made her document her own examinations as a child to prove his methods were generational healing. The revelation came during a deposition when her lawyer accidentally asked the wrong question. Mom's face went white as she realized what she'd admitted. Her careful narrative about being a passive victim crumbled in real time. Discovery showed Mom was building her own blog about maternal health monitoring before the arrest. The post dated back 3 years, with detailed theories about proper child assessment techniques. She'd been Dad's student first, then his partner, finally his successor. The blog had 17 followers, all mothers seeking validation for their concerns. The USB drive hidden in Emma's teddy bear contained Mom's examination videos of all 3 children. I found it while packing Emma's things for another temporary placement. The bear's seam had been carefully restitched. Inside, wrapped in plastic, was everything we needed. Mom's voice narrating each session with clinical detachment. The videos showed Emma's growing distress over years, while Mom calmly documented normal childhood resistance. Each recording followed Dad's format exactly. Date, time, temperature, observations. Emma at 3, confused but compliant. Emma at 5, asking why the examinations hurt. Emma at 7, silent and dissociated. Mom's voice never wavered. I realized both parents were true believers, not one victimizer and one enabler. They both thought they were saving us. The revelation hit during a late-night review of evidence with my lawyer. Mom's notes showed genuine concern about our development, twisted through the lens of abuse disguised as care. She'd learned from her mother, who'd learned from hers. I committed to using their own documentation system against them, despite feeling complicit in their methods. Every video cataloged, every blog post archived, every email thread preserved. I became what I hated, methodical and clinical, because that's what the system required. Evidence over emotion. Jim's notarized statement about never examining children contradicted pharmacy security footage showing him buying specific supplies. Latex gloves in pediatric sizes, the same thermometers Dad preferred, examination gowns in children's patterns. The pharmacy manager testified reluctantly, protecting his business while confirming the purchases. I presented evidence calmly, channeling Dad's clinical demeanor to seem credible. Jake flinched at my familiar tone. The transformation was complete. I'd become the documentarian, the keeper of evidence, the one who could speak their language. Jim buying kid-sized medical supplies at the pharmacy while saying he never examined children is like buying a pirate costume then swearing you've never been to a Halloween party. The security cameras don't lie, buddy. The judge listened differently when I used medical terminology. The pattern became undeniable. Dad to Mom to Jim, each believing they were protecting children through violation. The expert witness explained it as trauma bonding, generational abuse, learned behavior. But those were just words. The reality was 3 adults who'd convinced themselves that hurting children was helping them. them. Both sides prepared for final custody determination with the compromised judge. Mom's team filed motion after motion trying to get a different judge. Mine focused on making the evidence so overwhelming that even a compromised judge couldn't ignore it. We both knew the system's weakness. The courtroom packed with blog followers supporting Mom, abuse survivors supporting me, and confused community members. Dad's empty defense table sat like an absent patriarch. His presence felt stronger in absence, the ghost of examination rooms haunting everyone who'd been touched by his legacy. Mom unconsciously arranged pens like Dad's medical instruments while Jim mirrored Dad's note-taking posture. They'd absorbed his mannerisms completely. Mom clicked her pen in the same rhythm Dad used during examinations. Jim held his legal pad at the exact angle Dad preferred. They were puppets dancing to a dead man's choreography. Truth emerged through Mom's own meticulous records showing escalation from monitoring to active abuse. Her videos revealed the progression. First just temperature taking and weight checks, then unnecessary disrobing, then invasive procedures that served no medical purpose, all documented with pride. The judge's newly assigned clerk, a devout Christian who believed in justice, authenticated evidence according to standard protocol before the judge could intervene. She verified it according to protocol, Your Honor. Her words cut through the judge's attempt to delay. The evidence entered official record. The judge ordered psychological evaluations for all parties including Jim, buying time while maintaining appearance of fairness. 6 weeks of assessment, 6 weeks of Emma in foster care, 6 weeks of Jake's panic attacks worsening, 6 weeks of me sleeping on couches and fighting to stay functional. The court-appointed expert confirmed videos showed medical child abuse pattern despite Mom's good intentions. The phrase hung in the courtroom, good intentions, as if meaning well-excused systematic violation, as if believing you're helping made it less harmful. The expert's testimony took 3 hours. Evidence proved systematic abuse but also showed children's complex attachment to parents who genuinely believed they were protective. Love and abuse intertwined inseparably. Emma still drew pictures of Mom. Jake still kept Dad's coffee mug. I still found myself checking locks in Dad's pattern. Trauma bonds weren't easily severed. Mom's breakdown revealed she couldn't distinguish between care and control. She sobbed on the witness stand, repeating that she just wanted us healthy, like her mother wanted her healthy. The generational curse laid bare. Her mother had done weekly inspections too, and her grandmother before that. How many generations of children examined in basements? I was offered input on Mom's criminal sentencing recommendation after her guilty plea to avoid trial. The prosecutor met with me in a small conference room. She'd take a deal for probation and mandatory therapy if I agreed. No jail time beyond weekends. The choice felt impossible. I requested mandatory therapy and supervised visitation only, knowing Emma still loved Mom despite everything. Healing, not just punishment. The prosecutor nodded, understanding the complex calculation. Emma needed to process her trauma without losing her mother entirely. Even broken love was still love. Emergency custody granted to me for Emma with Jake as backup guardian. Jim banned from contact. The paperwork felt heavier than its weight suggested. Legal guardian at 19, responsible for Emma's everything. Jake promised to help, but his own trauma made reliability complicated. Community divided over the verdict. Some accused me of destroying a good family. Others shared their own silenced stories. The grocery store conversations revealed 2 other families with similar traditions. Hushed admissions of weekly health checks, of concerned monitoring, of children who grew up thinking violation was care. I started trauma therapy with my siblings, learning the difference between vigilance and paranoia. The therapist specialized in medical abuse survivors. She explained how hypervigilance served us once but held us back now. I still checked locks repeatedly but recognized the behavior. Progress meant awareness, not perfection. Restraining orders established against Mom and Jim. Therapy mandated for everyone. Emma's new therapist specialized in medical trauma recovery. Jake found someone who understood panic disorders. I kept seeing the specialist who helped me testify. 3 therapists for 3 siblings, all processing the same trauma differently. Mom served her sentence, weekends in county jail, weekdays in therapy. Jim's trial proceeded separately. The nurse who'd gained trust through professional credentials faced harsher scrutiny. His license suspended pending investigation. His daughter stopped texting after his arrest. Dad remained in federal prison. His letters arrived monthly, addressed to all of us. We'd agreed to keep them unopened in a box. Maybe someday Emma would want to read them. Maybe Jake would need closure. Maybe I'd find forgiveness. But not yet. Not for years. The house sold to pay legal fees. Mom's blog followers dispersed. The medical equipment donated to legitimate clinics. Dad's binders sealed in evidence storage. Our childhood home became someone else's fresh start. I drove by once and saw children's bikes in the driveway. Jake managed his panic with consistent therapy and medication. He kept his job at the pizza place, grateful for the normal routine. His efficiency apartment became command central for sibling dinners every Sunday. We cooked together, ate together, remembered we were more than our trauma. Emma's recovery wasn't linear. Some days she asked for Mom. Some nights she wet the bed. Some mornings she refused breakfast, remembering Saturday routines, but she laughed again. She made friends. She trusted her teacher. Small victories that felt monumental. I finished high school through online courses while managing Emma's schedule. College would wait, maybe forever. The future I'd planned dissolved into immediate necessities. Guardian responsibilities replaced teenage dreams. I mourned the life I'd lost while building the one Emma needed. The judge faced federal investigation after his clerk reported concerns. The system moved slowly but inevitably. His daughter transferred schools. His wife filed for separation. The blue binders in his chambers became evidence in another family's tragedy. Cycles breaking, one revelation at a time. Jim got convicted and served 5 years. His ex-wife rebuilt her life. His daughter entered therapy. Another family processing another betrayal. The ripples of abuse spreading through generations, touching lives in ways we'd never fully understand, but also ripples of healing, slowly expanding. 3 years later, the adoption finalized. I became Emma's legal parent, not just guardian. Jake stood as witness. Mom didn't contest it. Her therapy apparently working. The judge, a new one, smiled as she signed the papers. Emma wore her favorite dress and held my hand. We lived in a small apartment near Emma's school. Jake had moved to the unit next door. Sunday dinners continued. Therapy continued. Healing continued. Some nights I still checked the locks too many times. Some mornings Emma still asked about Mom. Some days Jake still breathed in Dad's pattern. But we were breaking the cycle one normal Saturday morning at a time. No examinations, no documentation, no clinical observations, just breakfast and cartoons and arguments about homework, just ordinary life, which felt extraordinary ordinary after everything. Just 3 siblings who'd survived, still surviving, learning what family meant without fear. The binders stayed sealed, the blog stayed deleted, the equipment stayed donated. Our story stayed ours, shared only in therapy and court records. No book deals, no documentaries, no laws changed. Just one family's slow journey from systematic abuse to something resembling peace. It was enough, more than enough. It was everything. Thanks for coming along while I poked at all these questions. Seriously, that was a fun one to think through. Always cool to just wonder about stuff together. And hey, if you made it to the end, drop a comment. I love reading all your thoughts. Catch you later.